Z-40 was born on June 28, 1973, in Nuevo Laredo, Tamaulipas. He set a stronghold for more than a decade. His parents are Rodolfo Treviño, who was already 49 years old when Miguel Ángel was born, and María Arcelia Morales, then age 34. The Treviño Morales couple raised a large family. Juan Francisco, aka Kiko Osuna, Arcelia, Chelo, Irma, Alicia, Rodolfo, María Guadalupe, José, Ana Isabel, Jesús, Miguel Ángel, Oscar Omar, Alejandro or Z-42, Cristina, and Adolfo. According to information from both Mexican and US government intelligence agencies, María Arcelia Morales was alive until 2007. She would now be 74 years old. She lived in Nuevo Laredo. She had a passport to legally visit some of her sons and grandchildren living in the US. And she had a Lincoln Navigator pickup truck registered in her name. The Treviños' history in crime began 29 years ago with Juan Francisco, aka Kiko Osuna, the firstborn son of the Treviño Morales couple. On December 29, 1993, during a random search by the US Customs Service, Juan Francisco's vehicle was stopped, and he denied on 2 occasions that he was carrying more than $10,000 in cash. A search of the car found almost $50,000, which was confiscated. That year, the DEA and the Border Patrol had launched an investigation into the trafficking of tons of marijuana from Nuevo Laredo to Texas. But they only had a few pieces of the puzzle. In 1994, the US government formally accused Juan Francisco Treviño. Another Treviño named Armando, it is not known if he is his relative, Abraham Padilla, Abel López, Fernando Quiroz, Hipólito Ortiz, Oscar de León, and Edel Isaac, of criminal association for possessing more than 1,000 kilograms of marijuana with the intention of distributing it. At the time, Miguel Ángel Treviño Morales was only 21 years old. On October 18th, 1994, Juan Francisco Treviño, Armando Treviño, and Pedro Sánchez testified and requested a speedy trial that should have taken place within 70 days after they voluntarily appeared in court. On May 1995, Juan Francisco filed a motion to dismiss the charges against him for failure to prosecute in an expeditious manner. On June of the same year, the charges filed against him in October 1994 were dismissed. Kiko Osuna thought he would be released from prison immediately. Little did he know that days earlier, on June, the prosecution had filed a new indictment against him for another conspiracy to distribute more than a ton of marijuana on US soil. While awaiting expedited trial, the DEA obtained sufficient evidence to incriminate him. As in most cases, the agency got it through accomplices who took refuge in the Informant and Protected Witness program. Those declarations completely sank Juan Francisco. Everardo Ramírez, presented by the prosecution as a government witness, testified in court that a man named Tobar Osuna introduced him to Juan Francisco Treviño, who offered him a job. The job was to transport marijuana from Nuevo Laredo to Dallas. Ramirez's first duty was to store the weed in his house for several days and then take it to Pablo de Luna's house. The following month, at Tobar Osuna's request, Ramirez agreed to store and deliver marijuana that was to be transported to Dallas. Tobar's job for Juan Treviño was to cross the marijuana across the Rio Grande to Ramirez. In turn, Ramirez would take it to Pablo de Luna's house, where it was stored and then transported through a border company, the court file states. Ramirez testified that he had participated in trafficking marijuana from Nuevo Laredo to Dallas about 3 times a month for a year and a half. He added that the largest drug load he stored was 600 pounds to 72 kilograms, and that they transported drugs in U.S. territory in suburban vans through the private roads of a large ranch to avoid police controls. Frank Staggs, the owner of the ranch, stated that the caretaker of his property was Armando Treviño. Everardo Ramirez also stated that he was to meet at a Dallas hotel with José Treviño Morales, Juan Francisco's brother, who would pay him for his services. It took years for the US government to detect and stop the criminal activities of José, who 17 years later turned out to be the head of Los Zetas money laundering network in the US through the American quarter horse racing business. Another key informant was Joe Chavez, who worked for Kiko Osuna. In December 1993, he approached DEA Special Agent Armando Ramirez to offer himself as an informant. He had the feeling that this thing, the criminal network, was going to collapse, the court file states. On January 24, 1994, Joe tipped off the DEA Special Agent about a marijuana shipment that was to be delivered to Dallas on January 26th. Undercover agent Ramirez helped Joe Chavez load more than 463 kilos of marijuana into a Suburban attached to a trailer in Laredo. When the shipment arrived in Dallas, agents were already waiting for them and arrested Ricky Treviño and Abel Lopez. According to court documents, Chavez stated that the seized drugs belonged to Juan Francisco Treviño Morales. That was enough for the eldest of the Treviño brothers to lose all illusions of getting out of jail. On December 1st, 1995, Kiko Osuna was sentenced to 22 years in prison, which was completed in 2017. He was confined in a penitentiary near Laredo, and according to the sentence, upon his release, he will have supervised release for 5 more years. While Juan Francisco Treviño Morales was in prison, his younger brother, Miguel Ángel, followed his footsteps and surpassed him to become the leader of one of the most powerful criminal organizations on the continent, Los Zetas, which Barack Obama's administration called a global threat comparable to the Camorra in Italy, the Yakuza in Japan, and the Brother Circle in Russia. The first traces of Miguel Ángel Treviño Morales' criminal career date back to 2000. The intelligence information obtained indicates that at that time he was in charge of retail drug sales in the Hidalgo neighborhood in Nuevo Laredo, Tamaulipas. In addition to carrying out kidnappings, disappearances, and the executions of people who did not pay their ransom. He first worked with Arturo Sauceda Gamboa, brother of Héctor Manuel Sauceda Gamboa, aka El Caris, Omar Lor Méndez Pitalúa, el comandante Pita, Iván Vázquez Caballero, aka El Talibán, and Mateo Díaz López, aka El Comandante Mateo. Pitalúa was arrested in 2005, Díaz López in 2006, and Vázquez Caballero in September 2012, while Sauceda Gamboa is at large. Their rise in the criminal world was quick. In a 2005 FBI document titled Los Zetas, a New Threat to the United States, the name Miguel Ángel Treviño Morales appears as one of the key operators of the Gulf Cartel in Nuevo Laredo, and specifies that he worked with Los Zetas, then the armed wing of the cartel. After Arturo Guzmán de Sena, killed in 2002, and Heriberto Lascano, killed by the Mexican army on 2012, Miguel Ángel became the first Zetas capo not to come from the army, but directly from the criminal world, which does not mean he lacked training or was ignorant of military tactics. According to the FBI study, the members of the Special Forces Air Mobile Group, GAFES, who left the army to join organized crime, trained the rest of the criminal organization, in addition to allying with 30 ex-military members of the CAIBILS, Guatemala's special anti-guerrilla force, known internationally for its inhumane and bloodthirsty practices. According to the document, Los Zetas established training camps on a ranch located between Villahermosa and Rio Bravo, Tamaulipas. And Z-40 made its criminal debut in Nuevo Laredo, where the criminal group was a pioneer in implementing a surveillance system with video cameras and halcones in the city streets. At least since 2005, the US government had information that Los Zetas were operating in Coahuila, specifically in Piedras Negras. The FBI reports that in 2005, the leader of the Zeta cell in Piedras Negras was a drug trafficker named Fernando Villarreal, identified as Z-40, a nickname used today by Miguel Ángel Treviño Morales. The first preliminary investigation in Mexico against Z-40 is dated 2001, followed by another in 2003, and 5 others were opened in 2005. In one of the 2005 investigations, Miguel Treviño is identified by a woman as the one who forced her husband to move a trailer loaded with cocaine. In the part of the information provided by Mexican intelligence agencies, it is stated that on April 28, 2005, during a meeting between FBI and Mexican government officials, the name of Miguel Ángel Treviño Z-40 emerged for the first time as an important member of Los Zetas. The US government had several criminal indictments opened against him. One of them in the Southern District Court of Texas, in which he was charged with 47 counts that could accrue more than 200 years in prison. An investigation was opened in May 2012 by the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Texas for conspiring to laundering drug money for Los Zetas through the purchase, training, and breeding of American quarter horses in the United States. At 39 years old, Z-40 became the leader of the most bloodthirsty criminal organization in Mexico. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribe and leave a comment. Thank you for watching. See you next time.